Thanks for joining us here on the Bearcat Sports Network. It's time to preview the 2015 McKendree University football season, and we're glad to be joined by head coach Mike Babcock. Coach, let's go ahead and start on the offensive side of the ball. This will serve as our offensive preview for 2015. Looking back at last year as a group that took a few weeks to gel, once they all got on the same page, put up some record-setting numbers, especially in the final 5 games of the season. 41 points a game, 512 yards total offense in that season-ending 5-game winning streak. But it's a team that I know you were very optimistic about the work they put in the offseason and in preseason camp to get ready for this year.
You know, I think the biggest thing that we saw at the end of last year was, most importantly, just guys clicking. You know, the run game was starting to look pretty good. We were able to protect up our quarterback. He was able to find some receivers, and we were able to capitalize. And to be able to have that consistency, that's really what we've been focusing on this offseason. Spring ball went well. Preseason camp went well. By no means is it perfect, but the guys are, really working hard to be, a high-powered offense.
Let's break it down by position, starting under center. Your quarterback position, Isaac Fisher, heading into his senior season, became a dual-threat quarterback last year, blossomed really in the overall aspect of the game, not only setting a season record with 2,722 yards passing, tying a record 19 touchdowns, but he led the Bearcats in rushing 764 yards, first quarterback ever to lead McKendree in rushing for a season. Like we said, really blossomed last year. I'm sure you're expecting big things from him as a senior.
You know, anytime that you have a senior quarterback, especially one that's been a 4-year starter, you obviously expect big things. I know he feels the pressure of kind of being the guy this year. But he's done a nice job. He's highly competitive, and that's really what makes, that's really what separates him from some of the other guys. And I can't say enough great things about Fish. He throws the ball well. He knows what he can do, or where the ball should be going. But at the same time, being a dual threat quarterback, it's tough for a defense to be able to cover him, because all of a sudden, is it going to be quarterback run? Is it going to be a straight drop back pass? What is it going to be? That's really what we try to focus on, and he does a nice job and really kind of takes the bull by the horns and says, hey, this is who I am, and this is how we're going to get it done. So again, he's a fun guy to watch.
Looking past him, I know there's some other guys that have been in the stable for a couple of years, guys like Brendan Fred, Elsie Burke, some other young up-and-coming quarterbacks that if for some reason something were to happen to Isaac Fisher, you can look to those guys to lead the squad as well.
That's one of the big things we try to find this fall camp is, okay, who's going to be the next guy, who's going to be able to go in and not miss a beat. And we've actually had a really nice camp with some of the guys. You had mentioned some of them. Brendan Fred, he had a real nice camp. Was able to do a lot of great things. Elsie Burke is still a young quarterback that is getting better every day. He's doing a nice job. Reese Metcalf, another young quarterback. Even some of the freshmen that we have stepped up and shown some nice things. So, I'm happy from where we're at, especially, depth-wise is concerned. Obviously, you never want to lose your starting quarterback, but if it did, I'm perfectly happy with the guys that would have to go in for him.
Looking at the guys that line up behind Isaac Fisher, your running back core really was a young squad last year, almost a running back by committee, if you will. You lose Ryan Herring to graduation, but some of the guys that you called their numbers last year, they really stepped up and did the job. Guys like Kevin Witzik, Cheyenne Edwards, Miles Hammonds, those guys I'm sure figure in the mix as well for this year.
Absolutely. I think we figured last year that there wasn't one particular running back that just, all of a sudden did unbelievably better than the next guy. So we got a rotation going, and those guys really bought into that because they were able to say, okay, I'm going to have my, couple shots and I'm going to make the most of it. And it kept them fresh. It kept them, gunning for that starting spot. And so, this offseason has really been a push to try and find who is going to be the starting guy. How are we going to do at running back? And I like our, as you said, stable of running backs. Other guys that to mention in there, Trey Williams, is a great running back in there. Cheyenne, Miles, and Kevin had a great camp. Another young up and coming guy, Kyle Harris, has had a nice camp as well. So I'm very pleased on where we're at running back wise, and I know they're excited to kind of show off their skills and show off what they can do and really get going this week.
Continuing our look at the skill positions, you look at the wideouts that the Bearcats have, probably the deepest group that McKendree has ever had returning in terms of wide receivers, led by all-conference performer Cameron James, led the team in receptions, receiving yards last year. Guys like Tyler Brewer stepping up last year, having a big season. Sean Dowling, Darius Crockwell impressed as a freshman. So you've really got to be happy with the guys that Isaac Fisher is going to have to throw the ball to this year.
Absolutely. I think the really neat thing towards the end of last year is there really wasn't an I in that group. It really was kind of a team effort, and those guys really don't care if the next guy gets it or they get it, as long as we can continue to move the ball and score points, and that's what's really fun about it. And the fact that we have some depth at that position and can rotate those wide receivers in and out, I think gives us the advantage, because having the second string guy go in, he really isn't a second string guy. So all of a sudden there's not much drop off in, your number one and number two guy. And so, we're able to, again, move the ball around. So very great camp, guys like Dustin Walls, Tyler Brewer, had good camp. Darius, as you said, definitely a young wideout, did some good things. Gerard Jenkins, coming off of a knee injury last year that held him out for the entire season, he had a nice camp. Patrick Doty, again, there's Cameron James, Sean Dowling, so there's a lot of guys in this group that have fun playing, and more importantly, find ways to make plays, and that's what we want out of that group.
Rounding out the skill positions, your tight ends, maybe not quite as experienced a bunch. You lose Reuben Bowlby to graduation, and you're going to call on some young guys to step up there, pretty much like the running backs last season.
Injury-wise, last year I think held out some of these freshmen, but a redshirt freshman, Skylar Paulson, has had a real nice camp. He's got a chance to do some nice things for us this year. The next guy would be Austin Appleby at tight end, and obviously we'll see how the season progresses and how those guys do. So, but at the end of the day, when it comes to playing on the offense, I'm going to put the best 5 skill guys on the field. If it's 5 wide receivers and nobody else, that's what it is. If it's 4 tight ends and a running back, that's what we're going to do. So at some point we're going to find the 5 best guys and find a way to get them the ball and put them on the field.
Looking up front, the Bearcats have a veteran offensive line coming back, 4 starters back from a year ago. Derek Starrett was a first-team offensive lineman in the Great Lakes Valley Conference last year. And you've got guys like Clint Rotterman, Casey Croney, that have been multiple-year starters along with Alex Palmer.
It's nice to have a little experience, with those guys. And again, if you're running the same type of offense, and you continue to do the same type of reps, those guys are going to get better because they're going to see the same things over and over and do the same things over and over. So, guys like Derek Starrett, Clint Rotterman, like you said, Clint's a great leader. He really does lead that, entire group. He's definitely not the biggest offensive lineman in the conference, but he is probably one of the most competitive guys. And he's extremely smart and love what Clint does. Other guys that are stepping up to the plate, Alex Palmer at tackle, is coming into his junior year. He's doing a nice job. Some young guys, Jake King is battling some injuries, but he's getting some good looks right here. Justice Smith, Travis Newman, some of those guys are really pushing for that starting spot. So like I said, just going to be exciting to see what they can do this week.
Then we'll round out our offensive preview, our first look at the Bearcats for 2015. On our next segment of the 2015 McKendree University football preview, we will take a look at the Bearcats defensive unit for the coming season right here on the Bearcat Sports Network.